Happy Friday, you guys. Thank you for logging back on. We do have another story today, but before we do that, I just want to say to all the students who have sent pictures, sent emails, sent videos of literally anything that you guys are doing, I appreciate it. I know Mr. Shaw is loving it as well. I have got to talk to a couple of students on the phone, and special shout out to those kids, especially Angel. I know you're watching, and thank you so much for calling me this morning. You absolutely made my day. I know that I talked to a couple of other students yesterday, Alexa, Keontae, so I just really loved being able to chat with you guys and just hear from you, so that's really wonderful. But we'll go ahead and jump in. The story that we have today is, again, another one of my favorites. I say that every day, but I have a lot of favorite books. And the one that we're reading today is Grace for President. You may have already heard this, but if you haven't, stick around. It's one that you do not want to miss. So here we go. On Monday morning in September, Ms. Barrington rolled out a big poster with all of the president's pictures on it. Grace Campbell could not believe her eyes. Where are the girls? That is a very good question, said Ms. Barrington. The truth is, our country has never had a woman president. No girl president? Ever? Grace asked. No, I'm afraid not, said Miss Barrington. Grace sat at her desk and stewed. No girls? Who'd ever heard of such a crazy thing? Finally, she raised her hand. Yes, Grace? I've been thinking it over, and I'd like to be president. Several students laughed in the class. Well, I think that's a star-spangled idea, Grace, said Miss Barrington. In fact, we can have our own election right here at Woodrow Wilson Elementary. The snickering in the room stopped. Grace smiled. Would anyone else like to run for president, Miss Barrington asked the class. Nobody raised their hand. Becoming president was going to be easy, Grace thought. The next day, Miss Barrington made an announcement. In the name of democracy, I have invited Mr. Waller's class to join our election. Their class has nominated Thomas Cobb to be their presidential candidate. Grace's heart sank. Thomas was the school spelling bee champion. His experiments always took a blue ribbon at the science fair, and he was captain of the soccer team. Becoming president wasn't going to be easy after all, Grace thought. Oh. The teachers put all the names of all 50 states and the District of Columbia into a hat. Everyone except for Grace and Thomas got to choose a state. I'm Texas, said Anthony. I'm New Hampshire, said Rose. I'm Michigan, said Robbie. What does the number 16 mean? Each state is assigned a number of electoral votes. That number is determined by how many people live in that state, said Miss Barrington. Each of you will be a representative for your state. Altogether, our country has 538 electoral votes, Mr. Waller explained. On election day, the candidate who receives 270 electoral votes or more wins the election. Why 270? asked Rose. That's more than half of all the electoral votes, Mr. Waller said. Becoming president really wasn't going to be easy, Grace thought. Grace came up with the campaign slogan, Make history, vote Grace Campbell for president. Thomas came up with his own campaign slogan, Vote for Thomas Cobb, the best man for the job. Grace listened to what issues were important to the students, and she made a list of campaign promises. A peaceful school, no bullies. A cleaner school, no littering. And better hot lunches, no more fish stick tacos. Thomas made up a list of his promises. Free tutoring, free soccer lessons, and fish stick tacos every week. Grace made campaign posters and buttons. Thomas made posters and buttons too. Each week, the teachers set aside time for the candidates to meet. Polls were taken, voters were making their choices. Grace continued to campaign. At recess, she gave speeches. During lunch, she handed out free cupcakes. And after school, she held rallies. Meanwhile, Thomas wasn't worried. He had cleverly calculated that the boys held slightly more electoral votes than the girls. At recess, Thomas studied his spelling words. During lunch, he worked on the latest science experiment. And after school, he played soccer. Even before the election, Grace made good on her promises. She joined the safety squad, she organized the school beautification committee, and she volunteered her time in the school cafeteria. In early November, Woodrow Wilson Elementary hosted a special election day assembly. Grace and Thomas took their places on stage as the school band began to play. Henry was the first representative to approach the microphone. The Yellowhammer State of Alabama cast its 7 electoral votes for Thomas Cobb. Fletcher said, the last frontier state of Alaska cast its 3 electoral votes for the best man for the job, Thomas Cobb. Hannah called out, the Grand Canyon state of Arizona cast its 11 electoral votes for Grace Campbell. And so it went. State after state after state cast their electoral votes. The scoreboard in the gymnasium kept track of the totals. The voting demonstration was quickly coming to an end. Clara approached the podium. The Badger State of Wisconsin cast its 10 votes for my best friend, Grace Campbell. Grace looked at the scoreboard. Thomas had 268 electoral votes. She had 267. There was only one state still unaccounted for. Thomas grinned. Grace felt sick. Sam walked up to the microphone. He looked at Thomas. He looked at Grace. He looked down at Grace's handmade flag. What are you waiting for? Thomas whispered. The band stopped playing. All eyes were on Wyoming. Finally, Sam cleared his throat. The equality state of Wyoming cast its 3 electoral votes for Grace Campbell! Yay! The gymnasium erupted in loud cheers and a few boos. Miss Barrington approached the podium. With 270 electoral votes, the winner is Grace Campbell. Thomas looked stunned. Grace hugged Sam. Why did you do it? She asked. Sam handed Grace his flag. Because, he said, I thought you were the best person for the job. The following week, students in Miss Barrington's class were preparing for their career day presentations. Grace volunteered to go first. She stood at the front of the room and glanced at the posters still hanging on the wall. My name is Grace Campbell, and when I grow up, I'm going to be President of the United States. This time, everyone believed that she would. The end. And that is our last story of the week until we hop back on here next week. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I think it's a really cute story and just kind of shows that you have to work hard to get where you want to be. Thank you for logging on and watching, and hope you guys have a great weekend. Do something fun, do something creative, get your brain moving, get your body moving, and I will see you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye, guys.